Most people are told that a type 2 diabetes diagnosis is a one-way street. You're told it's progressive. You're told it's chronic. You're told your only job for the rest of your life is to manage the decline with a pillbox and a glucose monitor. But what if I told you that the factory inside you, your pancreas, isn't actually broken? It's just understaffed. By the time most people receive that official diagnosis, they've already lost between 40 and 50% of their beta cell mass. Those are the specific workers in your body responsible for producing insulin. Conventional medicine focuses almost entirely on cleaning up the mess those missing workers leave behind by managing your blood sugar levels. Today, we are going to talk about how to rehire the staff. I'm Lina, and today we are diving deep into the peer-reviewed science of pancreatic regeneration. We aren't talking about miracles or overnight cures. We are talking about specific bioactive seed compounds, things you can buy for under $5 at almost any grocery store, that have been shown in clinical trials at institutions like the National Institutes of Health and the University of Oslo to stimulate cellular repair, lower A1C, and flip the metabolic switch. If you want to move beyond just managing a condition and start rebuilding your underlying biology, you need to understand the 4 biological pathways we're about to uncover. Stick with me until the end, because I'm going to give you the exact gram-for-gram morning protocol that leverages these findings into a daily routine. To fix the problem, we have to understand the factory. Imagine your pancreas is a precision manufacturing facility with 1,000 workers on the floor. Their only job is to produce insulin. Over years of high-stress diets and chronic inflammation, small fires break out in different sections of the building. These aren't dramatic explosions. They are low-grade, persistent heat. This chronic inflammation slowly damages the machinery and wears out the workers, causing a few of them to quit every single month. After a decade of this, you don't have 1,000 workers anymore. You have 500. Those remaining workers are exhausted, trying to work twice as hard to compensate. That is the definition of insulin resistance paired with beta cell burnout. But here is the secret that is rarely discussed in a standard 10-minute doctor's appointment. The factory has a trainee program. Inside your pancreas are progenitor cells. These are essentially blank slate cells waiting in reserve. Under the right biochemical conditions, these cells can be activated, trained, and put to work as new functional beta cells. This process is called Beta Cell Neogenesis. In a state of constant metabolic stress, the signal to train these new workers is effectively turned off. However, specific compounds found in seeds can reach into that control room and flip the switch back on. The first and perhaps most powerful tool in this protocol is the Fenugreek seed. It contains a rare alkaloid called Trigonelline. Clinical research shows that Trigonelline doesn't just help with sugar, it directly influences the expression of PDX1. Think of PDX1 as the master architect of your pancreas. It is a transcription factor that acts as the genetic switch for beta cell formation. When PDX1 is active, it sends a clear signal to the body to begin producing new workers. But Fenugreek does double duty. It also contains a unique soluble fiber called galactomannan. This fiber forms a thick, viscous gel in your digestive tract that physically slows down the absorption of glucose. It's not blocking it, it's buffering it. This is a critical distinction because a slower rise in blood sugar means a gentler demand for insulin, which gives your existing exhausted workers a much-needed break while the new ones are being trained. The second powerhouse is the black seed, also known as Nigella sativa. The active compound here is thymoquinone, which is one of the most studied natural activators of an enzyme called AMPK. This is often referred to as the body's master metabolic switch. When AMPK is activated, it tells your muscle cells to open up their glucose channels without waiting for insulin to unlock the door first. Imagine your cells normally requiring a specific key to let sugar inside. AMPK activation creates an emergency side door, For someone with type 2 diabetes, this is a game changer because it reduces the total insulin demand on an already taxed and struggling pancreas. Next, we have to look at protection, and that is where ground flaxseed comes in. Why do beta cells die in the first place? They are unusually vulnerable to oxidative stress because they produce very low levels of their own protective antioxidant enzymes. This is their Achilles heel. Chronic oxidative stress triggers programmed cell death or apoptosis. Flax seeds are among the richest plant sources of lignans and alpha-linolenic acid. These compounds have been demonstrated to suppress the specific inflammatory pathways, particularly one called NF-kappa B, that accelerate the destruction of pancreatic tissue. You aren't just rebuilding the factory, you're reinforcing the walls so the new workers stay safe. Finally, we have chia seeds. When chia seeds are soaked, they expand into a mucilaginous gel. A study from the Karolinska Institute found that this specific gel matrix can reduce post-meal blood glucose spikes by over 20%. By flattening those spikes, you prevent the panic response from your pancreas. This gives your biological systems the stability they need to prioritize repair over crisis management. Now, let's look at the hard clinical evidence, because this isn't theoretical. At the University of Oslo, researchers recruited adults with newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes and supplemented them with 10 grams of fenugreek seed powder daily. At the end of 12 weeks, the group showed a 28% reduction in fasting blood glucose and a 13.4% drop in A1C. This wasn't just better management. Markers for actual beta cell function improved significantly. At Penn State, a similar trial using 25 grams of ground flaxseed showed a nearly 20% reduction in fasting insulin levels. This means the participants' bodies became far more efficient at using what they already had. Furthermore, a massive meta-analysis from the National Institutes of Health reviewed 23 different trials on black seed and found a consistent, significant reduction in fasting glucose that, in many cases, rivaled the effects of first-line pharmaceutical interventions, but without the associated side effects. So, how do you put this into practice? Here is the exact morning protocol based on the clinical evidence. First, you need 10 grams of fenugreek seeds, which is roughly 1 heaping teaspoon. You must soak these in a glass of water overnight for at least 8 hours. In the morning, you drain them and eat them. Do not dry roast them, as high heat can degrade the Trigonelline by up to 40%. The taste is bitter, but that bitterness is actually a marker of the medicinal potency. Second, you need 25 grams of ground flax seed, about 2.5 tablespoons. You must use ground seeds. Whole flax seeds have a protective outer shell that your digestive enzymes cannot break through. They will pass through your system entirely intact. Grind them fresh if you can, or buy them pre-ground and keep them in the refrigerator to keep the oils from going rancid. You can stir these into oatmeal or a smoothie. Third, add 2 to 3 grams of black seed. The most bioavailable form is cold-pressed black seed oil, about half a teaspoon. If you prefer whole seeds, toast them very lightly for just 60 seconds and crush them before eating. Consistency here is more important than the dose size. 2 grams every day for 12 weeks is much more effective than taking a huge amount once in a while. Fourth, use 15 grams of chia seeds with your morning meal. Soak them in water for 15 minutes until they form a gel. I recommend adding a squeeze of lemon juice to the water. The vitamin C in the lemon actually creates a synergy that improves the absorption of the healthy fats in your flax seeds. To amplify this entire protocol, you can add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Make sure it is Ceylon, not cassia, as cassia contains compounds that can be hard on the liver. Finally, wash it all down with a cup of green tea brewed at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid adding dairy milk, as the proteins in milk bind to the antioxidants in the tea and stop them from working. There are a few common mistakes that prevent people from seeing results. The first is expecting a miracle in 48 hours. Beta Cell Neogenesis is a biological process that unfolds over months. The studies showing the most dramatic shifts ran for 10 to 16 weeks. You have to give this protocol at least 90 days before you evaluate your progress. The second mistake is thinking you can use these seeds to cancel out a poor diet. These are powerful biological tools, but they are accelerants. If you eat these seeds and then consume a day full of processed sugars and refined flours, you are essentially trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose. This protocol works best when it is paired with a move toward whole, single-ingredient foods. Your health is not a fixed script written in your DNA. Your pancreas is an adaptive, living organ that has a documented capacity for recovery if you provide the right raw materials and remove the constant biological stressors. You don't need to wait for a new miracle drug or accept a progressive decline as your only option. You can begin supporting your own metabolic recovery today. It doesn't require heroic effort. It requires consistent, informed, and daily action. If you found this information useful, please share it with someone who is currently managing their blood sugar. There are hundreds of millions of people worldwide living with this condition, and most of them have never been told that the food they eat can do more than just provide calories. It can actually provide instructions for repair. I'm Lina, and I believe that when we understand the why behind our biology, the how becomes much easier. I'll see you in the next one.